Look what it says here. They say leave meeting. You're consenting to be recorded. Oh, they ask for consent now.
Oh,
Wait, this is recording. Oh shit.
Yeah.
well, this is a great start because obviously we need to be one with the changes of the world. So I'm glad we can
100%.
do this together.
And,
Yeah, so
and,
guys,
as always, you've always got to ask consent.
yeah. So,
Any
but guys,
scenario.
yeah, Zoom has just changed up on us in a week. So now, like, as soon as you press record, it's like we're asking for your consent to be recorded. So, hence why the usual intro isn't the usual intro right now. But welcome back. I hope you've had a really, really good week and enjoyed obviously the episodes. Today's another big discussion. It's actually been brewing for over a week. We basically ended last week's podcast and we were like, we started actually talking about this new topic and we're like, hold on. Let's wait for another week. So we wanted to dive deep into body images. And I know Nathan was kind of frothing at this straight away. So Nathan, let's dive deep into obviously body images. Why did you start lifting at the tender age of 16? Or was it before that, to be honest? I don't know.
Yeah, I started when I was 14. Local gym around the corner from school called Hard Labour, and if you were like 14 to 16, you could get in for like £2, and that would get you a gym session in a real, like, looking back on it now, it's probably one of the best gyms I've ever been in. But you never appreciate it at the time. You just think, oh, it's got a sauna, it's got a spit and sawdust, it's like got all the machines. There's massive people walking around, and most importantly, they give you a protein shake afterwards.
For free?
It was, yeah, it was like you £2 and you get a workout and a protein shake, which is fantastic. But it was one of those, during the protein shakes that they come in the sachets and it's full fat milk and it's like 400 calories a pop. But then you're drinking it and you're like, this is the best thing I've ever tasted. And you walk out the gym with this big pint cup because you're like, yeah, boy. And you have to finish in school and you're like, oh, that was well worth it. And it was normally just because of the strawberry protein powder that I had afterwards.
Can we talk about like how you just paid £2 for a gym with the sauna? And like, think about that. You basically said that's the up north version of David Lloyd, basically, right?
Yeah, it was very much like one room was like where the guys went and got their jabs for steroids, and then the other room was the changing rooms. Like, I think the female changing rooms was quote unquote the gear room, because like women wouldn't go to that gym, obviously. They walk in the door noise, rah, rah. And then like just like guys just like fucking, tops off training. And I was only 14 at the time, right? So I'm thinking, what am I even doing here? I just came for a workout. Like, have you got a treadmill? I might just walk on that for 20 minutes, whatever it is.
That's a workout in itself.
Down for the first week. Yeah. First week, every day I did the sauna. I didn't even train because I was like, I just fancy a bit of that, and I don't really want to go and do some I don't really know what I'm doing in the gym. But anyway, we went, a group of us, like just like obviously strength in numbers when you're younger, and then basically we ended up getting into lifting. I've always been into sports, so it wasn't like a natural process. Someone was like, "Oh, do you want to go to the gym?" And I was like, "What do I do there?" And then obviously they said the sauna was there, and I was like, "Yeah, good, case sold. I'll bring my £2 tomorrow." And then I started lifting like that. I mean, I was fat, so I was always like, I just need to get like less fat because I was wearing a like large top and it was down to my knees at 4'7". So I was not wanting that kind of a lifestyle. So for me, I don't even think maybe subconsciously I was thinking about, I want to impress the girls, I want to be a little bit bigger, whatever it was. But I know that for other people it was probably a different story, because a lot of people like they start lifting right to impress the ladies from a guy perspective anyway.
And that's, I think, the whole podcast on today is basically about like, did this all start because we wanted to impress the opposite sex? Emily, like even for you, like, when you first started your gym journey, was that one of the main reasons, or was it just like, look, I'm in here to, get spiritual with my fitness?
Well, I think I lacked spirituality at the age of 16, if I'm going to be honest. So my first gym, it was actually one of these like in the suburbs, really irony, like really, really dirty and like never been cleaned ever. And I remember I walked in there and I was like, yeah, I'm going to sign up. And I was I'm still small, but I was small. And I remember like they put the adductor machine in the corner, and that's where I went. Because that's where I thought, I need to work on my thighs, and I need to work on this. So that's when I went. But like I've also always been sporty. I used to play football, and then I used to do kickboxing, and then I was a dancer. So there's always been some level of sports up until that point. But I think what got me really into it is that I had a really good friend who was aspiring to be a trainer, and he was training football guys. And he just wrote me a plan, and I really just enjoyed it. But I mean, there was definitely a sense of I need to change. We talked about this in another podcast. Like, there's definitely the driver for wanting to start the gym was definitely to improve my appearance. Up until that point, I was really, really insecure. I'd just been bullied for a few years, and I was always the skinny girl with, the last one to hit puberty. And so like my self-esteem was actually very low. I didn't have any friends that would go. So I was always like the lonely wolf doing those things, thinking that it would help me. And I naturally always turned to guys. So it was like, oh, this is a guy thing to do. So I'm going to go to the gym so that I can be with the people that I actually feel like I can connect with better, because I just couldn't really connect to girls for a very long time. So yeah, I think it was a mix, really, thinking that, this is where I would feel at home because of the type of people who are in here, even though they scared me to shit, like, the old men and like grunting. I was like, holy shit. Yeah, so definitely a mix, like trying to find a place where I could feel at home. And also, of course, building a body where I thought would be more attractive, because I didn't feel very attractive at all at that point. So yeah.
And what was the, like, let's say a couple of years down the line, you're lifting, you're now in the gym, this is like a way of life. Did you, your goal was obviously like, I want to be more attractive to the opposite sex potentially. Did it work, or were you just like, actually just, this is my journey and this only matters to me, and I don't really care about other people's kind of opinion on that? Or was it that came later down the line?
I think quite quickly. There was definitely a few years when I wasn't so into it, but I was still going for those reasons. But I remember when I was in uni, and I was studying music, so I was hanging out with musicians who had no like interest in gymming. Like they would go get the pints for lunch, and I would go to the gym. And I remember at some point I just really liked how it made me feel, and I wasn't so it went less for what I was looking like and more for what it was giving me. It gave me a lot of energy, it gave me a lot of confidence. So I think it was just a few years, maybe 3 or 4 years later on, when I then all of a sudden went for different reasons. But then I also started going for the excitement of like, whoa, look, I can take the 10-kilo dumbbells and press it now. And like, whoa, I can start put plates on the bar when I'm squatting. Like, so it became that obsessive kind of, ooh, what can I achieve next? Like, look what I couldn't do before and look now. And so that became my new obsession of like, how can I keep improving? So yeah, so it became less about pleasing the opposite sex than to please myself or to challenge myself, which was an important thing, I think, to realize. Because
you mentioned your music degree, right? Was it degree? Yeah. Did you find like, because obviously you have like maybe 2 different circles now, like you mentioned one that they would love the pints, and then they love probably the socials and going hard with that. Did you find yourself like you're like opposite ends? You're trying to, like, it's like a tug of war, like one's the gym and then one's like, oh, I want to be here, or I should be, or did you just feel like, no, I'm actually just going to go to the gym instead, like this is what I prefer?
To be honest, from the time when I got bullied when I was 12, I never turned to groups. I was always the one who, like, I've never been part of a group. I have people, and I'm very much like a chameleon between groups, and I do really well with anyone and everything that moves, but I still never am like gravitate towards a group of people. Like, I don't necessarily want to be defined by a group. So it was never hard for me to not go to like, I never felt excluded because I never included myself in the first place.
Fascinating. And Nathan, even for you, like, let's take it towards like university now. Was gym a big deal at that point? Or was obviously because uni goes one or two ways for most people, right? Like you either go in the party route, or like how I did it was, for me, was like a lot of self-development and improvement at uni versus like maybe even before that. What was your experience when you did go to uni?
Yeah, I think for me it was like training was there and thereabouts all the way through. Doing a sports rehabilitation degree, I was in the gym all the time, or just wanting to go there anyway. But I think the motivation was always, it transferred a bit. When I was 14, I didn't really know why I was going, apart from just going with the mates, whatever, and like enjoying it a little bit. But and maybe for a long time after that, there was this disconnect between why I was going and why I wanted to get what I wanted. So like I'd go, you get a bit more like female attraction or like attention, and maybe you don't really go a little bit because you're like, oh no, I don't really need to, or or
I've already
whatever.
got it, yeah.
Yeah, I've already got it. Figured this shit out. I'm good, But I think for the most part, it was flip flopping between that, and it was just finding out why I wanted to go, and just still going because I enjoyed it and I liked the challenge. I liked the way my body looked when I did do that, and that was probably a large factor for me. Like spent a long time, 5 to 8 years, going, I like the way my body does when I do X, or I like it when I do that, or when I don't do X, this is what happens with my body. And there was a lot of body focus, going through those years.
And do you think it has changed right now, or do you feel like it's still evolving?
No, it's still, I'm more clear on how I operate now. I think for the most part, love the way that you can look when you lift. Like I love a vein, really love like a vein, especially like shoulders, arms, like that type of stuff. I love that. And I like what I'm building, which is great, but it's not the be all and end all. Like I go for many other reasons. And I think having that correlation and connection between, okay, well, if my training does well, then my business does well. And if my training goes well, then I get to be more mentally clear. And that type of stuff really, really changes. And now it's like, to be honest, you'll be who you'll be, and you'll attract who you attract anyway. So like, if a girl doesn't like the way my delts look, well fuck her, because I like my delts,
That, the way you just said that, like if a girl doesn't like my delts, it's just hilarious because they'll never ever think. But like if a girl doesn't lift, will never ever care about your like bicep peak or your delt or anything like that, right? And it's crazy how we all think about that. Like, this is the whole premise of this podcast, right?
Yeah.
It's literally talking about it. But like I remember when I was probably, so I wasn't too bad with girls when I was younger. So my insecurity wasn't that, but it was also because I was doing a sports degree and I felt like a fraud. I just didn't have the physique. And when I was doing a sports degree, I was the only Asian in there as well. And all of them, like the rest of them, had like great physiques. What I perceived was great physique at that time, right? And I was like, damn, I have good physiques. I need to do something about it. That's where my insecurity kind of came through in the very beginning. But then when what happened was everyone who started training, and I realized all of them just trained for the girls, right? And it was also like you had nights out. Uni was a big thing because it was always about like you meet new people, you meet new girls. You don't know who you're going to meet, to be honest. And you're like, I need to look my best for this. Yeah, you hear all about girls for the girls, right? It's like it's still the biggest. Even to this day, people still say it. I remember Geordie Shore, not Geordie Shore, is it Jersey Shore? They used to always have that, like plates before dates or some shit like that. And it was just like that culture was huge like 10 years ago. And I remember even at uni, I remember like we used to go to like pre-drinks and so on to someone's house. They always mention, like, oh, I just I got dumbbells in my room, gonna get some curls in before we called a taxi. I remember one guy did that, and he got like a cheeky pump, but it was hilarious to kind of think about it at that moment. And I was going to the gym, but I never thought about it that way. When I'm like, oh, I need to go and attract someone the opposite. For me, it was mainly like it was career based, but it was also like this is like what I do. Like, this is my degree, so I should probably represent my degree from a physical viewpoint, which is I don't think many people think of that way. But me and my training partner, we started this conversation to this day, and we were like, do you remember the people who train for like a couple of weeks because they're trying to find a girlfriend, and then we find a girlfriend, they're like never train again? And it still happens probably to this day, right? Even like I've had clients who are like, I've come here, I want to get married, I want to find a girlfriend, all that kind of stuff, or find a husband. They find that person, and then what happens typically? And Nathan, I know you've had a couple of clients as well in that sense, because I remember them.
Things start to slip, they start like getting happy with it, like, and that's great. And I'm not dissing happiness, because happiness is obviously fantastic, but like if you're doing something for another reason, it'll show as soon as you get somewhere near that feeling, right? Even if you not get the exact one that you want, but as soon as you look for like belonging or hope or happiness or contentment, then the things that didn't you were doing to get that normally end up stopping because it was the only reason why you were doing it. So for sure, like I've seen it so many times, and especially like mid-30s females who are looking for to get settled, and they're getting they start like whipping themselves into shape. Maybe it's off the back of a bad breakup or something, like the fuck you diet, or whatever it is.
Revenge body. Revenge
yeah,
body.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so the revenge body, yeah. Get the revenge body, and then everyone will love you after that, and then they'll do that, and then they'll go into the next relationship because they'll be feeling more confident from the process of getting in shape, and then they start to then not do those things after they get the specific thing that they want, which is absolutely fine. No one should force you to do anything, but normally, then 6 months down the line, a year comes down the line, they're like, "Uh-oh, I've gained 15 kilos, and like, I don't like the way I look." And it's like, okay, well, that needed to stay, darling.
I think we also came to like probably a realization at a younger age that we're not doing this for opposite sexes. Like from what I can tell from all of our conversation right now. But like Emily, what's a couple of big tips that you'd give someone right now who's like listening to him and they're like, oh shit, that's actually me. I'm planning my revenge body tour. I'm doing this because I'm trying to find the next wife or husband. And these things are popping up in the head, but they're listening to this podcast right now thinking, Jesus Christ, they're talking to me right now. So yeah, what advice would you give to that someone? Because obviously, they still want to get to that position.
I mean, I think if you start taking action out of pain, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Just make sure that at some point along the line, you start to actually focusing on not pain and love and self-love. I think what people needs to realize is also like, where is your self-validation in any of this? Where is the self-worth? Because so essentially, like, if we start taking action out of pain, it's because we don't worship ourselves enough, basically. If I believe that I need to go and change myself to please someone else, then I need to probably look a little bit deeper than just the surface level solution of changing my body. Ideas for what people can think about. I mean, just go soul searching, like, honestly.
What if like them getting that revenge body is for them soul searching in that moment? Because a journey is still quite deep in a sense, but they may find something else about themselves, which quote unquote could be soul searching for them. So would you still let them say, okay, look, find it here?
But I mean, you can still go and achieve an amazing body transformation out of that pain. And I think if we've all had partners in the past, we've done some choices afterwards that would have felt like, yeah, fuck you.
100.
I know I have.
New haircut.
Nathan is just sitting there nodding. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's what some of my best fuck you moments led me down to an amazing life. Like, I'm thankful. So it's not a bad thing to sometimes have fuck yous and go with it. But just at the end of it, hopefully you come to terms with that you are so much better, and what you just achieved was for yourself, not because you weren't good enough to start with. But I think that's the thing. We need to have that coming at some point. It's okay to not feel good always and to not feel good enough. That's going to be part of life, right? I think we all lie if we said we didn't feel not good enough sometimes. But that's good, because if we don't feel good enough, we go and become better because we believe that we can be better. Right? But at some point, again, it needs to move away from I'm not good enough because someone else made me feel that way to, hey, now I just want to stay in this frame of mind because I can't seem to shift it.
Yeah. I think there's a large part of for the guy side of things, like public service announcement, like regardless of what you do in the gym, so curls, back, chest, like the only real attention that you're gonna get,
guys,
for the most part, is from other guys. And if you're
especially if you blow up, if
you're looking for a girlfriend, then they aren't. It's very rarely. I might say this: if a lady's perception is that she wants you to have big arms, I would say she's probably not the right woman for you because she's focusing on the wrong thing in her mind. So I would stay well clear of those ones. Because if she's like, I have to date a guy with big arms,
She's too young.
daddy issues,
She's too young.
maybe, I'm not sure. Like,
She's too young. She's too young.
yeah,
in my opinion.
she's too young. Like literally going on Tinder and swiping, and people are like, only successful men with good bodies and over 178 centimeters. I'm thinking,
NBA.
firstly, I'm 161. I think I've got good arms, but I don't know if that will make up for the 10 centimeters that I'm missing. But like, it just shouts and screams that she's wanting physical and she's wanting someone to make her feel safe or whatever, from big arms or whatever it is. But from a guy perspective, you don't really want that. Like, unless you just want a good night out or whatever, that's fine. But like, if you're looking for a relationship or you're looking for something to be attractive to the opposite sex and you want something a bit more meaningful, then maybe looking for someone that doesn't have pre-stipulations on the way that you look is probably, advisable to stop your feelings being hurt. And then also then not putting yourself in a scenario where you don't think you're good enough, or that you have to go and put 2 centimeters on your biceps because she might love you a little bit more. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, if that's the conditional love that she's after or you're after, then I think you probably lead to an unhappy life. And I think so. Like, when you are going to the gym, at some point you're going to flip over and you're going to do these things. Go on a night out with a nice tight t-shirt on. You're going to probably peacock around a little bit because you're now flirting these little biceps and chest, and maybe that might attract some ladies, and that'll be great. But if that's the only thing that you're wanting to kind of showcase, then that's going to be really difficult to find a more meaningful relationship or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, also that, I mean, sure, like, we can't deny that you have the instant, what's it called?
Attraction.
Yeah, instant attraction, of course, it's a thing, but like, honestly, what happens afterwards? Like, now I've been quite good on the Tinder game, and it's literally like there's so few second dates, because if there's just something for show but there's nothing beneath it, like, you're never gonna even, like, if you look good but you have nothing else behind there, like, a girl doesn't want the good looks, she wants so much more. Like, and I think, at least if we speak from a female side, we actually want someone who will be there, like, mentally, energetically, like, and at some point what you look like to a degree won't matter. There's of course going to be like, you have attraction or you don't have attraction, but attraction is so much more than just looks. I think attraction cements in something so deep that just this is what they say, right? Say love is blind, and it's the truth. You start to actually appreciate someone so much more when you can show who you really are, and if that's something that's matching with the other person. So yeah, I think it's interesting, but I want to speak to you guys about, like, the other way around then, like, when you guys look on women,
big bums with boobs, what?
Yeah. And if you have to choose one, bum or boobs?
Bum, man.
Yeah,
we always had this thing where like most white guys in school would always choose boobs.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know.
Nathan's thinking now. He's like, "Is that me? Is that?"
No. I'm not a boob man, for sure. Like,
he's a hamstrings man.
Yeah, hamstring man. Personality man.
Yeah, but I think you know what you mentioned about, like, I think the whole physical attraction thing, it works when you're at your younger age. Like at university, I think I remember it's the only reason why people probably started lifting at that point, and it worked because I remember when I was there, it was interesting to see like loads of guys who just went to the gym specifically for this. And obviously the girls at that point, it was always go down to like emotional intelligence and maturity and all that kind of thing pops up over time. Like the older you get, the less they care more about, if you speak to a woman, it's going to be more about like, okay, what do you do? Like what you're about, what's your purpose, all that kind of stuff. It's different story. When you're younger, it's like, you could have the worst chat in the world, but as long as you look good, it's like, Jesus Christ, he looks amazing.
Yeah, right? But your brain keeps developing until you're like 25. So you won't have your ultimate EQ up until earliest 25.
Yeah, for sure. But like, women also mature a lot quicker than guys, right? Like guys, we tend to get better as age goes on. We're like fine wine.
Fine wine. You got that little Merlot from.
Yeah. So we're still like 16 at 20. You guys are already a lot older at that kind of age.
For all the ladies out there, we know. We're patient.
Exactly. But what was obviously you said you wanted to ask us a couple of questions around like what we kind of look for. You can go for it.
No, but more like, because we talked about it briefly before we pressed record, like the whole thing, because the whole thing was what sparked this conversation was that I showed you guys a photo where
and you commented on it and you were like, yeah, go on, carry on with it.
Yeah, so I had a photo shoot the other week and I got myself undressed. And the thing is, I did this photo shoot without doing a prep. So technically, I'm not as fit as I've ever been, or like I'm the heaviest I've been for 5 years. So technically, which the photographer, I thought he said it really well, because he's like, no, you're still fit, you're just not ripped. And I thought that was a fantastic thing to say, because I'm still fit, and if I deny myself being that, I'm just being a fucking idiot, right? So, but the point was, at what point does leaner is better ends? When it comes to the physical attraction, because what we talked about was, I actually think that my body now, as it is right now, will have a greater attraction to more people out there, men and women, than when I am at my fittest or rippest. But in my mind, I still probably think that I should be my fittest / rippest in order for me to be, quote unquote, the most attractive. Yep. So that was kind of, I think, what sparked this discussion was, where do we draw the line? Is there a line? Where is it?
I can definitely say from personal experience that
he loves abs on a lady.
No. That was actually the opposite.
Like, yeah, I know you hate it typically.
No, let's say I had some dealings with a lady who had abs a couple of weeks out from a photo shoot and prep, and I couldn't stop thinking about how fat I was. in that moment in time, I'm looking down. Obviously, if we're playing out the scenario, I'm looking down, doing my business. I'm seeing these abs, and I'm like, oh fuck, I'm fat. So for me, there's definitely a tipping point. I don't think it's attraction, but it's more like it's probably what a guy gets from a girl or a girl gets from a guy when they feel a bit more insecure about themselves because the other person is on a different level. So I think that it depends on what you're looking for and what you find attractive or what you find inspiring or what you find that promotes that trigger of insecurity. So I think everyone is quite different in that scenario.
So would you say that you then base your, not opinion is the wrong word, but depending on what you feel that you are in your body, you will draw the line for what you think is acceptable for the woman.
I knew you got himself in a hole.
So you should be fat.
So is it the same then for like, whoa, she can't be making more money than me because that then makes me feel.
I think it's always a representation of everything's a holograph to you, isn't it? If you're not aware enough, which I wasn't at the time, and I'm just living off emotions and reactivity, and I'm like, I get triggered, right? You're like, oh fuck, and then it just reminds you of your own dealings that you nailed like cookies before you before you got there. Sorry, and then when you nailed the donuts the week before or whatever, and you're sitting there going, oh, this reminds me of what that looks like, and I'm way apart from that. So I don't know. I think if you're not aware, a lot of that can innately just come straight away. Like the comparison and the insecurities of what you have is represented in someone else. Yeah. The way that you view it.
Is that why people then say, I don't want this in a person, I don't want that in a person, I don't want they become very hype, they have like a big list, right? You've seen them, like if you I watched his dating show, First Dates back in the day. It would be hilarious. Like the women on there, it'd be like have like a multi list about what they want in a man. And it would just be like
he has like 2 or 3 things on a list, and the woman goes like, "Yeah, let me bring out the library."
Yeah. It's
like a house, a car, a mortgage,
a Lambo, an Aston, and then a big house, and then this and that. And it was just hilarious when you hear it.
I personally think that over time you probably do have that to some degree, but over time it gets refined to things that actually matter.
Yeah.
Want to be more defined to values, right? And like
Morals.
yeah,
It would like
morals,
later, like now for me it is, but at that moment in time, or before that, it was definitely more of a superficial, innate reaction to be like, "Whoa, she's fit, let's go," or like, whatever it was. And
Even though
there was
she's toxic as hell, right? And you're like, she's still fit.
Are you saying that you're not there yet? Are you still there?
no, I'm good. I'm
You
a mixture of
told
the
me about
both
this
now.
ripped woman you had sex with.
Grabbing onto her abs.
I'm sure she had good values too, though. Don't worry.
Maybe.
Would it be the same for then, like women? Let's say if a guy like is getting, let's say he's got a photo shoot coming up or he's got a big show coming up, and then the girl isn't typically like, let's say, into her fitness, or she just doesn't go to the gym. Would she then feel like how Nathan basically described his feeling then?
I don't think so. That would be my like. I think it's way like. I think there is a difference here. I think it will depend on like where is she and where is he, but then no, I don't think so. I really don't.
So I've had a different scenario, with a girlfriend who you openly said to me, was like, sometimes I don't like you going to the gym, like at weekends or whatever, because it reminds me that I didn't want to go. Or it didn't, but that was toxic. But there are people like that. But like she would say, "Oh no, it made me feel bad because you're going to the gym on a Saturday morning. You're waking up at 7 a.m. and going to the gym and then coming back, and I'm still in bed." Yeah. And like you going on a diet made me feel like I should go on a diet too. So I think that definitely there is a portion of where people just elevate upwards and find those values and priorities. And like let's say for example, you had a guy who just he did the opposite to you. He just like sat in bed at cookies and crisps.
Yeah, but I would never be with him. Like, because it doesn't stem down to what he looks like. It stems down to what he does to take care of himself in his life. So it's less like, I used to think like, oh, he needs to be a guy who trains. So like, no, it's actually no. He can do sports. He can do whatever. Like, he might be hiking. It's more important the lifestyle behind what someone looks like, rather than you have to look a certain way.
The morals and values, right?
It's kind of funny though, because I used to think that like, and I've spoken to a lot of people, they're like, no, actually I like my men with the belly.
Yeah, the dad bod, right?
I
remember the dad bod was like,
I don't think I'm quite there yet. I can probably appreciate a dad bod if the guy has some serious emotional intelligence, and like I could probably do that, but again, it just depends on the lifestyle and if we have things in common. It doesn't have to be we're going to go to the gym every Sunday together and food prep. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. It's more like, do you have anything you like doing for fun, actively, other than maybe the fun stuff that you do with someone? But so I don't know, but I think there is more of a gradient maybe I think it's the same. I mean, some men won't find someone like me attractive at all. I actually follow a page on Instagram saying like, you look like a man, and it's just like it's just someone who's like literally taking comments that someone puts on like a fitness girls pages, and just like fucking blast. Yeah, and so there's always going to be polarization in what people find attractive, right? So I know that I won't appeal to everyone, and that's okay, right? But as long as I feel that whatever I do is for me, then whoever's going to come into my world, he's going to appreciate that, right? And then I know that I don't need to change to please that person, because I did it for myself anyway.
I think we've had a good experience with clients actually in this zone, in my opinion, where like one partner is doing, let's say, quote unquote, the program, and is getting into the best shape. The other couple actually is like, I don't like this because of this reason. We've actually seen relationships break down quite a lot when people start programs, to be honest. And I think it may be because what Nathan just mentioned there, exact same reason. Like his ex saying, I don't like you going to the gym because of this. I've actually had like a conversation with a guy recently, and he goes, my wife is not really actually that supportive of me in this journey. Because it's similar to what Nathan mentioned, which is, so it is still happening, but obviously it's happening on each other, like, you know, if it can be husband or wife, and it could be the wife and the husband. For example, Nathan, you've had the same thing with this lady, for example, and her husband was like, I didn't even know you're doing this. She still dropped like 12 odd kilos, and you're thinking, what the hell, how do you not notice 12 odd kilos, right? So I think, yeah, I think it's definitely fascinating to see that, you know, happening more. I mean, I think and again, it just exposes relationships, right, more than anything else.
It just highlights maybe a relationship that was based on the wrong things, or equally, which is totally actually acceptable for this to break down, is that the person starting the fitness stuff changed their values, they changed their priorities, they changed what they stood for, and that other person didn't change with them, and that's okay because that wasn't theirs, and that's an individual thing as opposed to a family thing. And then that broke down because this person chose to do something about his body, his or her body, and that took them away from the things that they bonded over. You know, I've got plenty of clients that are doing husband and wife that bond over takeaways and bond over food, and they bond over sitting in front of the TV and watching Netflix and having a glass of wine. And that's what they formed their relationship of 10 years, 15 years on. And then they go out to nice fancy restaurants, or even just like they go to Nando's and get whatever they get, or they get a shared pizza from Domino's on a Tuesday. And a lot of their relationship is based around food intake or that focus. And I think which it can take a large dominance in people's life because it's an exciting thing. It's a short-term gratification. Both of them are getting a buzz from it. Then it loosens them up a little bit. They probably talk about their feelings over a Domino's, and then they get this togetherness. And then one of the guys is like, nah, I need to get a six-pack now. And then they then take away the Domino's, they take out the wine, and then that woman now feels like she's not getting the connection that she used to with her husband. That kind of breaks things down. That changes things. And then ultimately it's either twist or go broke on that one. And I think it can be both sides, whether it can be a poor relationship based on rocky foundations, or it can be that one of the people, more than likely the health conscious, more individual, has been an action taker now and then separated that divide, and there hasn't been a collective coming together again, which is I could see how that would work.
I totally agree, but don't you also think that it can sometimes be down to, hey, I'm doing this now, and this is the most important thing for me, and therefore it's like almost like an exclusion of, like, it's a separation, and that could be obviously down to poor communication and not really instilling to the other person why it's important and why the support could be needed. But I mean, as you said, like if it's a rocky relationship, it's probably the last nail in the coffin, right? But yeah, but I think it can be so many reasons for it.
I mean, you nailed it down though. Like sometimes it's poor communication, to be honest. Like it's just not explaining.
Time it is.
Yeah, what's really, really going on here? Like, okay, why does this journey mean a lot to me? It's just like, oh, I want to do this journey and then leave me alone, kind of thing. And it's like, okay, there's a reason why it's going to break things down. But if you actually explain it properly, I've never actually seen a big deal with it. I think sometimes they just kind of exclude it and just like, oh, let me go 0 dark 30 on this, which then your whole family gets kind of, they're like, what the hell's going on right now? And then they end up kind of looking at you as a coach and Jesus Christ, like what's going on here? So I think it's a fascinating thing when it comes down to that. But I 100% agree. It's a bit of both, poor communication, but also it's also like fixed mindset and then a growth mindset. Like one could have like a fixed mindset. Again, it could be they got together when they're really young, right? At that point, they're not. It may be based on attraction. They got together, and then you just got, all right, let's just marry each other, whatever, and that's really it. Then suddenly, 10 years down the line, the one person is doing more constantly. He's like, I want to do this, I want to try this. Like there's a whole fixed or growth mindset. The other person's like, oh, I'm just going to be okay with where I'm at. So when it comes down to like challenging each other, it doesn't really happen. But when the other person wants to challenge themselves, the other person's like quite insecure about it. It's like, what's going on here? I'm not in this good zone. So it's also like, again, it kind of all boils down to the values and morals, right? Are you a fixed, or that's a big question. Like if anyone goes on dates right now, just ask that question. Like tell them I sent it to you.
But also maybe, are you admitting your insecurities? Because obviously if my partner, if I was this on the receiving end of this, and my partner went out to do this fitness journey, and I was kind of happy with how life was with us, and we have these things which it's like unsaid rules, and all of a sudden those don't matter anymore because now he changed his mind. The mind security will come up, and if I can't actually, and again it comes back to that communication and owning that, like, hey, I as the one on the other side, if I can raise that in a way that goes, actually, I can see why you're doing what you're doing, and I think that's really cool. But this makes me feel this way. And then again, on the giving side, or the person going through that value transformation journey, is like, okay, cool. But if I do this, then I will be a better person because I will like myself better, and therefore my relationship to you will actually get stronger. And if you can see that, then this is going to be amazing. And I'm not going to push you to do the same thing if you don't want to. Obviously, I will support you in whatever. So yeah.
I'd also say that there's a large part of it that comes down to just weak strategy. So like that and this is the part when, as a coach, and we things like we speak about like client adherence all of the time, and like getting people to follow diets, and these are the parts where people don't think about that affect massive amounts. Let's say, for example, if you are, let's play this situation out, you've got 2 kids, you're happily married, or you're married now, but you're going through this transformation journey, and you start seeing this disconnect, right? So just think of it from both sides. You've probably changed the food that's coming into the house, the supermarket, the routine's changing. You're now doubling up on someone cooking food, or you're cooking food. It's adding more time in the kitchen, taking away less time from the responsibilities that you were doing before. There's probably pressure to do date night or social events at the weekends, and now you're moving away from those, or you're thinking about it and probably vocalizing it differently. Saying, "Oh, can I have that?" Or maybe I should have the chicken and veggies because K-Mac said that I should try and go for protein and veggies instead of what we did before. Whereas in those events, you probably would have shared a dish with the missus or the husband, or you would have got the starter, the main, and the bottle of wine. And now these strategies of what you used to think was like the relationship in broad sweeping terms is now you've took away those fundamentals of what you brought this relationship on, and that will change. And that's where strategy as a coach and strategy as a client comes in. You've got to know where you're playing the field. Like if you know that going on a meal plan and asking, doing chicken and veggies is not what the family does, but the family do something maybe slightly the same, but not the complete same, then the goal is to probably find a system that works for the family. If you find a system as a coach or as a client that works for a family, you have better chances of high dietary adherence, less resistance and less friction. And then you're not going to get into those squabbles about, oh, you fucking have to cook your own food, or I'm not doing extra cooking for you, or why do you have to spend hours in the kitchen, or whatever it is. And it's like that could all be removed by the way that you do it, and that then can change the relationship. That'll change the fundamentals of that. And I think that's a large factor as well. Like almost that's where communication again is that broad sweeping statement, but not only from the family side of things. It's like coach, client, family are all in this trifecta, which all have to be cognizant to be able to see where the pitfalls are. And like some clients are very lucky to be able to say, actually, this isn't working at the moment in time with my family, or the cooking, or I'm getting some earache. That's normally the one, isn't it? Oh, my wife or my husband's giving me some earache about the time that we spend in the kitchen, or he's talking about how I've meal prepped, or we haven't been out for dinner for the last 3 weeks. And then that's the communication to come back to the coach, and the coach comes out of there to facilitate a better outcome. But that is dietary adherence in a nutshell from that side of things. It's like so important.
Yeah. And I think also then becomes a lifestyle properly. Like otherwise it always become like a short-term thing. It wouldn't, like they know, okay, like I've signed up for X amount of time. I'm only going to do it for X amount of time because I know I've already got earache from this person. And sometimes like, even we mentioned client communication, like it's huge that clients are very open with this with their coach. Like don't hide it because you think I'm going to get judged, or like I don't want to kind of say, oh, this is what's going on right now, because right, the more open you are, the more, like I said, strategies you're going to end up getting from your coach. Otherwise you're never going to, like, if we don't know, we don't know. We're not mind readers at all. So it's kind of letting us know so then we can help you succeed, not just in the short term, but also the long term. Yeah. I'm just like mic drop, and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean,
here's one for you, Here's one. This one open a can of worms, right? So like 21-year-old maybe 20 something when you're going traveling, 24?
Pre-traveling then.
I was 20.
20, okay. When you were traveling, right? So there you're on Tinder, okay? When Tinder was before that. So you're in the hostel. You're like, versus now, maybe more on this side of the spectrum versus this, what was you looking for in a guy when you were 21 versus now?
There's Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
That's a question, isn't it?
What was I looking for? I actually don't really know. I think as a woman, like subconsciously, you always look for someone that makes you feel safe. Subconsciously, you will. And whether that is because you think he's a strong man and he's going to give you that safety by having big biceps, or that he won't disrespect you, or he will listen to you, like they will give you the same feeling. I'm just thinking back. Do I really want to think back?
Is this a part 2 episode then, yeah?
No, but you know what? I had, when I was 16, I'm going to public say, but when I was 16, I had a really nasty boyfriend. He treated me like a complete shit, like abusively in so many ways. And from that point, I made the decision that I would never date the bad guy ever again in my life. So I always looked for the nice guy. So like, I can honestly say, like, all the guys that I've ever dated after that point have been so lovely in so many ways, but I guess they never really matched my energy in a way. Like I didn't connect to them deeply. And I think that's what I'm looking for right now, is someone that isn't intimidated by the energy that I have, because it's quite intense. So yeah, I think I want a nice guy. I don't know if I'm gonna, but I want a nice guy. I'm gonna put like an ad on that.
This is an ad for the podcast. This is what Emily's looking for, guys. So if you know any guy out there,
this is you. Please dial. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think, I think this has been just the past couple of years, actually. It's just that thing of actually finding someone that you just have good values with, someone that you can have a good laugh with, someone that's just like equally funny and deep at the same time. At least that's for me, and then obviously having some level of commonality in terms of how we want to live our life, because otherwise it's not going to work out, and I don't have time to like waste on people anymore, which is why like there's very few second dates. But I also realized that I have to maybe lower my standards, because you can't judge someone always based on like your first date, I think. Maybe, but that's maybe me.
Well, that's a big one, isn't it? First dates, like, why is it? That's a huge topic, to be honest.
We'll go for this next week.
Yeah, let's actually do that. First dates and fitness. Boom. We'll call it that. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was a very, very different episode. However, it still, all goes back to, lifting weights with the barbells, the dumbbells, and everything related to that. So we're back next week with part 2. We're going to talk about first dates and fitness and how it's all related. So yeah, enjoy, subscribe, send this to your friends and family. Apart from that, peace out.
Thanks, guys.